Without further ado, allow me to now bring in my guests this morning, beginning from my immediate left. From my immediate left, he is a legislator from Mwingi West, yes. Charles Nguna. Karibu sana mheshimiwa. Just next to him, we have Madam Peris Tobiko, who is a UDA nominated senator. Karibuni.
Asante.
First things first, I believe a lot of Kenyans are quite expectant now that the head of state yesterday did give a command that the Kenya Defence Forces will also be allowed or will also be part of the joint operation that will rid the rift of the insecurity incidences that we have witnessed. Actually, it started out as cattle rustling. Now we hear it's more or less like banditry, because when you go there are no schools, students are not going to school because of the situation there. You find a lot of people are just being killed. And now it has ballooned from what it began as cattle rustling to it has now ballooned to be a crime. I would like to pick your mind on the president's declaration yesterday.
Yes, I think I fully support it. If our internal security is not really managing or doesn't have sufficient resources to address the problem, it is in order to inform even the military to take action, because our people have really been suffering. There is what we call socio-economic crisis in that region, and I fully support President actually to install the order in those areas affected by the banditry activities. So far, I've interacted with several members of parliament and even residents from the same region, and they have the idea the security we have internally is not sufficient enough to bring the mess into out. So let the military and GSU combine the forces so that we can witness peace, stability, and economic growth in the region. Yes.
And Honorable Tobiko, I'm quite sure you have seen this has been a recurrent issue over and over again. And this time around, the president said enough is enough. We are also going to rope in the Kenya Defence Forces. And some people argue that maybe after those bandits hear that, they will first of all retreat for a while, and then maybe after the joint operation is over, then you will find the recurrence of these issues, because some have been blamed on politicians who are even sitting as we speak.
The president is in order. Really, I think the situation has gone out of hand. We sympathize with Kenyan citizens who are in those regions. This insecurity just worsens the situation with also the drought which is already there. And so I believe the president will not just do a one-off sort of mobilization of security. I'm sure he'll keep at it. And so those who think they may return after the first operation, I believe they'll be in for a rude shock, because I believe the president will be on it and for a long time until this situation is completely sorted, because Kenya cannot just continue like that. I mean, people must obey the law. Leaders must learn to direct the citizens of this country to keep the law. Yeah.
And Mheshimiwa Nguna, looking at the region, the rift itself, areas of Baringo, Elgeyo Marakwet, Turkana, Samburu, they have been mentioned, and Pokot as well.
Yes.
You have seen that this is something that has been so recurrent, and there have been calls for years to open up this area, social amenities, infrastructure, and give these people something to do, because if you have something to do, I'm quite sure they wouldn't be resorting to what they are doing right now. Do you believe this is something that is long overdue?
Yes, I am sure first thing we need to do in the region. I don't come from the region, but I did a lot of recommendation on the leadership of that area. First thing we need to do in that region is to diversify economy. People have been heavily relying on livestock alone. The land is fertile, it rains a lot in some areas, And we can still have mining activities happening there. So we need to boost issues of agriculture in that region. Number two, apart from livestock, move from livestock alone and introduce many socio-economic activities in the region. By doing so, we will have people not heavily relying on livestock, because majority of the people who have been carrying out these banditry activities, they are rich people, people who are known, but the community doesn't want to come out clearly and shame them. I'm sure President coming from the same region, he knows exactly what is happening, and this is what we exactly need to weed out. These people who are carrying banditry, these people have been associated to the evil man of the community, and by doing so, we will stabilize the region and then introduce what we call, we diversify the economies in the region, and we will be able to sort out the mess. The area also needs a lot of infrastructure, roads. Roads needs to be done, and also water catchment zones needs to be done, like dams, the ones he has been proposing. If we do so, we will encourage people to venture into agriculture, that is crop agriculture. Then we move from livestock alone. Even we need to do other things like poultry farming in that region. It can do very well, and even cash crop farming, which is coffee, it can thrive in that area very well.
Yes. And Madam Tobiko, I remember the head of state on Sunday did give, actually yesterday he talked about 3 days for anybody who has illegal firearms to surrender them. And I was listening to an extract from who happened to be the regional commissioner a couple of years back, George Natembea, saying that when it comes to the disarmament, we are talking about 3 or 4 communities who all are armed, and each community will be first of all keen to see who first of all gives out the weapons, which would actually be derailing the process of disarmament there. I remember even some of the NPRs are now being factored in because they understand the terrain. And now we're talking about leaders who we expect to be keeping peace, and they have been adversely mentioned, and he said that some were even taken to the DCI, but who will go to testify against them, and these cases do collapse. I would like you to talk to leaders and their role in actually making that this place, this time round, we are done away with that rampant insecurity in the Rift.
It's really terrible. I mean, it's really terrible, and one will not imagine the Kenya of today, that we will still be having cattle rustling and banditry, you know. Particularly, it is even sad when it's said it's being encouraged by leaders. I would say leaders can help the community to outgrow some of these, if it's cultural practices or whatever it is, or whatever tradition it is, because sometimes when you see clips from those areas, they make it look like more like a tradition. I'm saying they can move away from it, because the Maasai community those days, historically, used to have cattle rustling. But we have since moved away from that. And I think encouraging the communities to go into education, because education really is a liberating factor. And I'm sure members of parliament using the CDF resources and all other, mobilizing all other resources within government can help the community to see a better future for their children, to get into the mainstream economy and get, just become the Kenya of today, or the Kenya expected of the 21st century. We really don't expect leaders to continue encouraging old, harmful sort of practices that will take the community nowhere. You cannot encourage communities to survive on the bloodshed of others. I mean, that's terrible and unacceptable today. And so I would support the president that this one must be gotten rid of by all means. By all means. So I would encourage that they surrender arms I would encourage that they start talking to each other, that I would encourage that they direct their communities or show the way, because for those leaders who are in parliament today, your colleagues,
yes,
really, they must have gone to school, and they must have, they are comfortable in Nairobi, but they are encouraging people back at home to continue with cattle rustling. This one should not be accepted. But there's something that Natembeya mentioned about equipping the police force. You know, and I think this is what government should concentrate on, that the police are sufficiently equipped to be able to undertake their role without, negotiating with the bandits, you know, because he made it look like they negotiate with bandits. I think this is where now the government should equip the disciplined forces, both the police and the army, and we must remain at it until it's over.
And allow me to bring in another governance expert, Nahashon Moitalel. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much. And
first things first, the head of state did order that also the Kenya Defence Forces will be part of the operation to rid of bandits in the region. I would like to pick your mind on the same, because as they say, now it's not cattle rustling, it's banditry, it's just crime. You see, there's a guy talking about coming to a school and shooting the schools, the water tanks, you know. And a lot of people have talked about, even we can open up this place with social amenities that could assist us in what is going to be one of the most peaceful regions. We have done away with the SDLF, the Sabaot Land Defense Force. We also had the Mungikis, of which the government did rid of that. And I believe in this time round, enough is enough, just as like President said, Nation.
Thank you so much for hosting me. And happy Valentine's for the viewers. I think that was the last resort that the president actually sought, because there is sort of impunity. Somehow you can read some terrorism in it, can read some the banditry, as you put it, and it translates to economic sabotage. And now we need to move on as a country. We need to make money, we need to go to school, we need to build dams, we need to do farming, all that. But we can't do that when there is a rampant debts, because all of us know that there is nothing as painful as death, especially when you bury a loved one. Not only one person, our whole family, our whole generation is wiped out. So when the president say that he will be sending the KDF there, and it's good through the approval of the legislative arm of the government, that is the parliament, they go there to restore peace. But what I really want, and my prayer is that we need to put all these maybe training camps, the border patrols, any military establishment, especially the training part, so that you understand the terrains well as a recruit. Because imagine you are taking a very young boy who was born in 2003, that's 18 years. He's a policeman, he's a Jeshu. Just remember, 2003 was the other day. To go to a bandit-prone area to fight an expert who was there 40 years ago. He knows the terrain. So KDF actually should do it in the most humane way and remain there. We need them there. It should be that the security forces, they should be friends, they should know the terrain, they should be, the chief should be knowing each other with those people, so that it doesn't become like a firefighting mechanism. There is fire in Pokot, we rush there, stop the fire, we come back to our comfort zone in Ruaraka or any other barrack. You remain there, you now have a peaceful coexistence, and then we sort these small issues which is bringing this all menace, like if we have a dam, let's say water is harvested, that can be shared between the two communities. because I come from a pastoralist community where I might be jealous you bringing your cow to an insufficient water pan that is almost drying, and then when it dries, our cows dies. So, if it is sufficient, it means everybody gets what? A share of this. And if everybody gets a share, we are all happy. No fighting, and then maybe this disarmament, because again, it's very tricky to disarm these people because we have people across the border who can cross the border and come and take our cattle. When you disarm them again, they become helpless. So that's why we need the border patrol to stay there permanently so that you don't become vulnerable.
Indeed.
But there's something we must put straight.
Yes.
That we are not castigating pastoralism. Pastoralism is a livelihood for many communities in these arid and semi-arid regions. So even when we encourage diversification of economic activities, it must not be interpreted that we are saying pastoralism is necessarily a negative way of living.
Yeah,
you know, I think people can still allow each other to keep their livestock, because, you know, the terrain also sort of determines the kind of economic activity to have. When you say go grow flowers there and all that, and the infrastructure and the kind of climate does not encourage some of these things, pastoralism becomes, you know, a more sustainable way of livelihood. So what we are saying is people should respect the properties of others. You can keep your livestock, whether you have 100 and I have 200 or I have 50, it should be respected. I mean, the first thing for these Kenyans to understand is that this country is governed by a law. You know, this country is not just you know, jungle sort of way of living. It's not a banana republic. So it is good for infrastructure to be put into place. It's good to be encouraged for diversification, but pastoralism is a way of living for a very huge part of Kenya. Yeah.
Yes, and I would like you to touch on the same, because I remember the former RC said that indeed this is something we are cleaning up, but at the end of the day, there are people who benefit from this banditry, and even talked about a lot of meat that is even sold in Nairobi and big towns, proceeds of banditry. And he said these people are gonna resist. And talking about resisting, we remember when we were flashing out this about land defense forces, they talked about the officers who are so gruesome, they didn't follow the rules that were there, they just were hurting people there. This is something that we will expect, and the former RC said about it, talked about it and said, yes, as we are trying this, there are some people who will object this because they are there and they benefit from this banditry. I'd like you to touch on that.
That's why in as much as we need to protect our North Rift, there are issues we have to address. I know majority of the communities who live there, they know the real problem. That's why we need collaboration between the military, the GSU and the police force generally, to give out information on without victimization of the same. And in as much as I'm supporting the military to go there, let me also say there has been laxity in police force. There is no way you can tell me police have been defeated by the banditry internally in our country. Let us not overburden our military. They have got external issues, but now this situation we are in, we also need to address the issues of police laxity. If you get these monos, when they graduate, they are the ones who are taking...
Mheshimiwa, kindly hold the thought. Allow me now to pick on the discussion that we had earlier on. We are looking at the state of the nation, and also we are having a keen eye in Nyayo National Stadium, where we are having a National Prayer Day that will be graced, among others, by the head of state, President William Ruto, his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, among other other government officials, including you as a Kenyan. If you can make your way there to the Nyayo National Stadium, kindly do, and we'll also bringing you a live update on the same. Beatrice Gatonya Ngetich is keeping tabs with what is happening there. And if you just join us, this is KBC News Check, and we are looking at the state of the nation. We're looking at the security, and especially after the head of state did mention that the Kenya Defence Forces will also be joining the multi-sectoral, the multi-agency team that will be rooting out bandits there and ensuring that the area is fortified. We have Mheshimiwa Charles Nguna, who is the Mwingi West MP. We also have Madam Peris Tobiko, who is a nominated senator, and we also have Nahashon Moitalel, who is a governance and leadership expert. And back to our discussion. Apologies, we had to cross over to COMESA to know exactly what is happening there. And you are touching about matters security in regards to the place. And you do remember the question that I had posed earlier on is there are the forces behind that. Unfortunately, we have even mentioned some of the leaders who have been mentioned that they also assist in funding some of the things and even providing. I remember RC, the former RC, George Natembeya, saying that some of the leaders are even bringing in some of the guns and even some of the bullets. But we might hear a scenario that we witnessed a couple of years back when the SDLF was being flashed out. They were talking about the mopping up was not quite humane. And they could use this. And the RC, the former RC also mentioned this because they will be resisting. There are people who are benefiting from this illegal trade.
Let me begin by saying we need to reform. First thing, the police force. Number two, reform also the NSIS. Because there's nothing that should happen inside our country without the knowledge of NSIS department. And we also need to restructure the way police have been operating. Most of the time, if you observe what has been happening in police force, they always take this recent monos who have graduated from the school. They usually take them to the dangerous places, leaving the experienced just in safe zones. And that's why we have been losing the battle between the banditry and the police. You cannot tell me the number of police officers we have in this country cannot handle that situation. That's why I was saying we need to stop of abandoning our military. It was formed purposely to protect our external boundaries, not internal boundaries. And it's high time we do these reforms in police force. Apart from equipping them, I still believe we have enough facilities to handle banditries. How we are invoking, how we are inviting the military to manage the situation, I'm yet to establish how and why can't our police force do that? Yes.
Indeed, and I think we can put a stop on the security issue and look at the national politics. Today, we are expecting that the National Assembly, beginning from 2 p.m., after the long recess, you have been at the National Assembly. Part of the entry is the budget making process. And Kenyans are quite expectant because this is the first budget that the Kenya Kwanza will be owning up to. And a lot is happening. Today we are praying for rains and the situation in the country, the drought situation and the food situation in the country. But at the end of the day, we will have to go back to the parliament to make policies that will govern us for the next one year. Mheshimiwa.
Yes, sure. It's been a long recess, but busy, because both houses of parliament have been going through induction courses, training, just to equip the new members with the issues of legislation and their role in oversight and representation. And so I believe we are all equipped now. Of course, I know I and Nguna have been in the House for some time. This is my third term, but now in the Senate. The budget policy statement is coming to both houses, and I'm sure, for the Senate, for us, we will be keen, to see how devolution is protected. Of course, we are excited as the Kenya Kwanza team, just to see the first BPS from the Kenya Kwanza government, which will be detailing the programs, the policies, the style, the reform, of the Kenya Kwanza government. Because I'm sure it was going to reflect what was in what we called the plan, the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza. And so we are really expectant in looking forward for this. I am sure a lot is coming. We saw what happened in Naivasha the other day, the agreements, the resolutions of the summit, that a lot more functions of the devolved units will be unbundled according to the fourth schedule of the Constitution. And so, and I saw the president is very receptive on the issues of devolution. We have also seen the president, mopping up resources through KRA in taxation so that we reduce on foreign borrowing. I am sure this is a good thing for the country. We expect also the counties to do the same, and enhance their own source revenue mobilization so that they stop depending on the shareable revenue only. Because counties now have relaxed. They are just waiting for their share from the Division of Revenue Bill, and then they are letting go through a lot of privilege of their own source revenue. So we expect the counties to really mobilize also at their level, the taxes and all that, so that Kenya stops borrowing. Yes.
Moitalel, you're a governance expert, and I'm quite sure any government would want to do away with external borrowing. And we had a look at the supplementary estimate that the Treasury had mounted, and the government wants to cut a lot on expenditure and more on development, and more specifically looking at what the current situation in the country is, the drought situation in the country. And I'm quite sure this is something that the honorable member should be very keen on in terms of how they do their budget.
I've seen the government or the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, and what I really like about it is they are trying to do a long-term, just a program that is not just like we put it, you're fighting an emergency. Whenever there is a problem, you sort it, you do these subsidies, 1, 2, 3. But what is impressive, and now putting the paperwork to real, we say where the rubber meets the road, is where now what they say, like, let's talk of something like mitigating droughts or anger. If we do that subsidy of fertilizer, and it really reaches the farmer down there, we expect in 6 months to have results. Likewise for the taxes, because there is a lot of loopholes of tax evasion. Like the statistics, when you check maybe the website for the China and you check the website of Kenya in terms of the revenue, how much do we import? The exact figure from the government of China can be like 800 billion, but what reaches to the KRA is like 300. So where is the difference? So if you check, and if the checks and balances are taken care of, we'll have enough money collected locally. And now the institutions which are there are now that is where I want the legislative part and the oversight part of the parliament and the Senate to really be our third eye there, is to really check is whatever the government is Auditor General's report, qualified and qualified, and if it is that way, what is a recourse? Who should take that responsibility? Who took this money or who pilfered the money from the government, and what is a recourse to that? So that whatever we put, all the policies we put, we have the best policies in the world, but they are just what? Gathering dust in the shelves. But now we need now to implement and make sure that we take the government into account objectively. Yeah. So,
Mheshimiwa, I'm quite sure we can pick it from where Madam Tobiko also left it, where, of course, counties are being urged to also be very keen in terms of their own revenue, because the division of revenue issue is something that always crops up. And we even sometimes, I remember covering that at the Supreme Court, and counties are still demanding for more money. But before then, also MPs, we were told by the President that you should now, when you come back today, ensure that the NGCDF is anchored in law, because the court did declare that it was unconstitutional. I would like to pick your mind on the same. There was some drama in Mombasa in regards to that, and the President himself said that being an MP in my previous years, I know exactly how NGCDF assist, and especially when it comes to bursaries.
Yeah, I know the challenges in these countries. They are really intimidating. As a president, I don't envy to be a president during this time of the year. Things have been skyrocketing. Prices of every commodity in this market. Actually, inflation is all over in the country. Number two, we don't have resources at the moment, as the way the finance CS put. If you look at what agriculture has been contributing, which is heavily affected by the climate change, 28% is a huge contribution being affected by the global warming. And I am looking forward now, I'm excited actually, looking forward to seeing the BPS, which is coming actually next week. This week you are doing with supplementary budget. But next week we will start budget process. So I'm expected to see a lot of allocation to food production, first of all, because food is a basic necessity to Kenyans. Number two, issues to deal with the water and stored projects. Otherwise, any BPS deviating from that aspect, it's not meant well for Kenyans. Let the president prioritize the stored projects first, because we have got so many roads hanging or somewhere near the bush, and they need to be completed. And
so we have seen the government is quite trying to do away with some of the spending on these.
I have not seen any effort so far. But I think it's the reorganization of the supplementary budget. I expect the next 2-3 months to see government put in effort in completing those projects which have stored midway. I have one just hanging in my constituency in Ambush somewhere, Kabat, Bondoni, Mingwani Road. And many other projects across our country. Number two, I'm expecting the president to start implementing the 100 dams he promised to Kenyans. And let these dams be distributed evenly, not 2 regions or 1 region. Yeah, it's good we see one in northeastern, another one from the lower eastern, the upper eastern, middle eastern, central, Rift Valley. Let us distribute these resources equitably without favoring few communities or other people who voted for you. The next 3 months I'm also expecting to see us deliberating the issues of CDF, which is a basic necessity, let me put it that way, to our society. So far, I have taken so many students to secondary schools now who heavily depends on bursary. And I'm just committing through letters to the principals. So if we withdraw CDF, which is being termed as unconstitutional, we will not see benefits. And this is the only fund which has been identified with all the projects we've seen across the country. Actually, it's an equalization fund. Let me put it that way. We are not going to relent. We will fight for CDF for life, and not for our benefits, but for the benefits of our community. Right now, we have put so many smiles of many students who don't even have anything to do, and they have gone to school courtesy of CDF. And I think when we read about the CDF, the new act, it's totally not unconstitutional. It is high time the judiciary now to stop politicizing some of these issues. Let them sit down, calm.
And I think that's why the president tasked you as members of parliament to anchor it in.
Let them sit down and read the new act very well, 2016 act. It is so constitutional. No law which is not observed. Every implementation all the way. None of the activities which are MP is supposed to be involved. The MP is just there to oversight and make sure projects are implemented, and you go and commission them. Nothing else about CDF, but it is run by the government officers, the fund managers. So let us stop politicizing CDF and see the positive impact it has contributed to our society. And being the only fund which is visible, even more than the billions we are taking to counties, I think it's not fair to declare this fund unconstitutional.
Honorable Tobiko, talking about NGCDF, the senators, you also want an oversight fund. And everything has to be anchored in law. And we are looking at the situation in the country. We are looking at the cash crunch that we have in the country. I would like you to touch on that, because it's something that the senators have also lobbied for.
Yes, sure. Actually, this is what I would say. Let me begin by saying NGCDF is an important fund, extremely important. But, you know, I hear the member, and I have heard many others when they come out here speaking about it. You know, the only thing that members are doing is shooting themselves on the foot. Because every time, he has just said, I have done committal letters. The MP doing committal letters. You know, I mean, this is where now the law says there is a conflict. You get it? So the members should get away of being the oversight. And that's why Senate is talking about oversight. Actually, the even the county assemblies, the National Assembly, the Senate are tasked with oversight, which is a role, a function that should be enabled. That is what senators are saying. How do we undertake this role without the necessary facilitation? That is why counties are running amok. That is why all sort of corruption and misuse of funds is going on, because Senate is not enabled to undertake its role. And I think this is where the National Assembly and the Senate should come together. And even the county, you've had the county assemblies insisting on award fund. Okay? Development is important, but we can do the oversight role on that development. Okay? And this is what the Senate is saying. We don't want to be implementers. We want to oversight, but we want to be enabled to oversight. This is what the Senate is saying. And without necessarily trying to demean NGCDF, because I know the miracles that NGCDF has done on the ground. It's only that members must know how to treat NGCDF, and the member states, you know, at a vantage point to be then an effective supervisor of what is going on in the ground. Yes.
Moitalel, a lot of Kenyans are looking at actually the budget making process, and more specifically, actually today we're expecting maybe some adjustment in the fuel prices. And other than that, and looking at what some of the proposals we had Kenya Power talking about a little bit more expensive tariffs and also maybe water as well. A lot of Kenyans, despite the budget process being quite an elaborate process, they want to feel the government and they want the cost of life to come down. These are some of the expectations of Kenyans.
Yeah, it is a challenge because if you check, when you buy, an example is when you buy tokens. When you check the levies up to fuel, for you to explain to a Kenyan that this electricity is fuel involved is somehow technical, difficult. So the government or the institution that is actually tasked with ensuring that Kenyans feel less tax, that is now even the parliament, is that they should provide some long-term solution to problems like that. Let's talk of the immediate one. Let's talk of just fuel, especially the kerosene. A big chunk of Kenyans or a big group of Kenyans are using kerosene. And remember, the firewood is no longer there. It's very difficult for you to use firewood too. Okay, they are there, but it is a challenge. But again, you are encouraging Kenyans to use gas. There was a time where the gas was very affordable. Okay, somehow affordable. But now, check now. Just go to the gas station now where they are selling the LPG gas. It is actually at the highest. Now, the government now should actually try as much as possible to balance. In as much as you need this revenue to run the economy, what will you do to this, to the gas? Unfortunately, the gas is governed by the prices of the petrol, and the gas industry is international. The OPEC countries are actually controlling this.
What are some of the things that the MPs, the leaders are right here, and they will be actually making the big call to do a what? 3 trillion budget?
Yeah,
3.6
trillion.
What are some of the things that you believe that the MPs should factor in? Now speaking as a Kenyan.
It's controversial, but if it is possible, a subsidy or a tax haven to some players in the industry, so that they feel a little bit relieved on the taxes they are paying, so that they lower their prices. So, but it needs actually a dialogue, because there are laws in place. There are institutions like regulatory, the ERC, the Energy Regulatory Authority. So it is actually, it needs actually a dialogue situation, where the committees go for retreat with the players and then come up with a possible solution. There is no marking scheme actually to say do this and this and this and this for you to seek the liberation.
All right, Mheshimiwa, you are part of the Azimio Brigade. First things first, do you support the consultative meetings that we have seen, ODM, or the rallies that Azimio One Kenya has planned?
I support the meetings putting pressure on the government, which is the right thing. But I don't support the call that we don't have a president. Everything was done constitutionally, he was sworn in. Let us respect the rule of law. But I support meetings coming to educate Kenyans on how to oversight the government, on how to put pressure on the government to deliver the manifesto. But what we are seeing, we have been witnessing a lot of prayer and breakfast meetings. we have been seeing a lot of church-going activities. Yes, we appreciate and acknowledge the supremacy of Almighty God. But still, God cannot help you if you are not helping yourself. Yeah, you need to work extra hard. We appreciate the supremacy of Almighty God, but still, we don't have to do prayer and breakfast every day to sort our economic issues. What we need is proper economic re-engineering and restructuring. We need to attract foreign investors in the country, but we are chasing them by overtaxing them. They are relocating to Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, where there is favorable taxation policies. We need to lure these people to come to our country to create job opportunities. If you create job opportunities and manufacturing and industrialization of the country, taxes will be paid automatically by the people who are working, by the industries which are manufacturing our things, by the industries which are manufacturing products and exporting. But now, if you look at our balance of trade, it is not in favor with any country. Majority of the things we are importing instead of exporting as a big nation. We need to wake up and re-engineer our economy. So far, I am not impressed with the taxation policies we are putting in place. We are only chasing investors, all of them. And soon, if we are not careful, we will not have any foreign direct investment in this country. It's a policy we need to look at and also advise the president very well. If at all we are going to recover economically, we need Kenya to be industrialized and no shortcut.
All right. Let's
it's
hear from
not even prayers which will help us to grow our economy.
Tobiko, I saw you were smiling when Mheshimiwa here was criticizing the government, saying that we are having a lot of theory than practicals. We are doing a lot of prayer than what we should be actually doing, and the tax policy is not quite what it should be. I would like to pick your mind here. Are you UDA senator?
Yes. You know, I was listening to Mheshimiwa, and it's interesting because I have not quite understood what the Azimio rallies are all about. You know, to me, it baffles my mind. I have not understood what is it they are asking for.
Point of information.
Just a moment, Mheshimiwa.
Point of information.
No.
Just a minute, Mheshimiwa.
He is not let me. You know, I listened. I let him say his bit. What I'm saying, I have not understood the Azimio rallies and what they are fighting for. The taxation is not so automatic the way he has said that payment of taxes will come automatically. It has never been automatic. We have so many tax evaders, and this is what the president is saying. You will not evade tax. Whoever you are, however big you are, however, whatever investor you are, whether local or foreign, you know, taxes must be paid on equal measure by the most of the lowest of hustlers to the biggest of investors. So what the president is saying, let us mop the resources through tax payments, okay? Not necessarily raising taxes. It is mobilizing what is already supposed to be due. There are those who are evading tax, and they should pay. They must pay. And you know, I am almost tempted to think the Azimio rallies is to cover the big tax evaders. I think that is what they are doing.
I think Mheshimiwa will have a word.
I think I've listened. I've never attended an Azimio meeting.
Why is that? And you
Actually,
say you are a staunch Azimio MP.
Azimio principles, if you listen to them keenly, they are here to correct the government. I've seen them fighting.
They are scared.
The cost of living.
They are
cost
scared of
living.
taxation.
Give me time. Give me time. I speak. Okay. They have been emphasizing on issues of rising cost of living. Number two, issues of drought. We are not receiving enough relief food in areas affected by the drought. They have been talking of issues of system the Kenya Kwanza want to bring. There's no way we are going to accept ministers to come on the floor of the House to answer. That is technically killing committees. And most of the functions are effectively actually performed at committee level. If the minister come to the National Assembly just to answer questions randomly, he will not be handling them effectively. We are comfortable with the current system of minister appearing before the committee instead of coming to the National Assembly. That is a way of actually killing effectiveness of committees. And we will not see results, positive results, if we allow this thing to come to the parliament inside. That is,
and there are some members of parliament.
Point number two. Point number three, which is very critical, and Azimio is raising, is the issue of this taxation. Everybody must pay tax. We accept that. Kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. Kila mtu alipe koti. Lakini ni vile vitu koti zinaendelea kuongezeka. Kila mahali, as in you are increasing taxes instead of actually reducing them to attract investors and also to stimulate the stagnating economy. Right now, if you interact with the corporate world, they are telling you the government is taking a lot instead of actually encouraging us to invest more. We are relocating. How many companies have we witnessed relocating from Kenya?
And because of the interest
to
of time, let's hear, Mheshimiwa, you had something that you wanted to say, and you have castigated the rallies themselves.
Yes.
Back in Parliament, I'm quite sure Jubilee talked about more or less like whipping some of the members because of being called to the State House, and they went. Something that didn't sit well with the Jubilee, and something that as well didn't sit well with the ODM fraternity after members of parliament were seen having a session with the president. I would like you to touch on that as well.
You know, Jubilee is a confused party. And I think they have not yet gotten a footing after the much losses they've had. And really, what will stop any Kenyan leader or even any Kenyan citizen from consulting the President of the Republic? What will be wrong with that? So when you see members of Azimio, Jubilee and ODM and Wiper really consulting the President, there's nothing wrong about that. And that is why I think they've not gotten their footing, whether they want to be the official opposition and how they are going to do to undertake that. They don't know whether it should be the rallies or whether they should do through their party leadership. Maybe it is their party leaders who want to go to State House instead of the members who are representative of the people to go talk. He needs to go to State House to talk about that road that he was saying has stalled in his constituency for long, you know. And so according to me, everybody should have access to the president, and the president has done very well with his consultative approach on issues leadership, on issues economy. You saw him meeting his cabinet and the principal secretaries and all. Now he has met the summit. He has actually met both houses at different times. And so the president is keen on listening to all Kenyans. In fact, the only thing I would say, this thing about fertilizer is not a one-fit-all outfit, because there are regions that may not necessarily be looking for fertilizers, like those regions that do with pastoralism. What we want is an insurance for the livestock, because we have lost the livestock in huge numbers. What we need is water harvesting to be done so that we address, these perennial droughts. What we need is to address the real climatic changes, so that then the country is brought at par. You get it?
All right.
Yes.
Indeed.
Just maybe as we wind up.
I have a last say on what we expect from the National Assembly and the Senate, of course. They're going to be back in tomorrow, Mheshimiwa?
Yes, today.
Senate.
Today.
No, today.
Today, Senate
Today,
as well.
yes.
All right.
Before that, let me just chip in on this, the politics.
We don't. Very brief because
just briefly, the most difficult situation to be now is in Azimio, because it was actually, they were trying to send a message through these rallies, but it backfired terribly, because now you realize that as Jubilee now is moving to Azimio, it created another issue of taxation and all that. So the geniusness of the president is actually super. The way it is.
Yes.
The way it Now on the parliament and is it both the Senate and the parliament that is opening tomorrow? Today. We really expect them to give us a way forward, especially in terms of releasing funds to the counties, because it is very embarrassing that most of the counties haven't remitted NHIF, NSSF, the bank, whatever, for the employees. And we have that program like the Linda Mama. We need people to the hospitals, actually the insurance fund. So the moment the counties are functioning, we reduce the lamentation from the ground, as well as now reach those people who are actually vulnerable. So we expect them to do the oversight, legislation, and the rest.
Thank you indeed.
Yes. Just to correct him, we are not responsible for actually delivering monies to county assemblies and staff. That is the work of the executive. They need to give money the right time, but we will put pressure. We will make sure constituencies are functioning, counties are functioning, and when you get corrected, it's not that somebody doesn't like you. We will support president to deliver manifesto, but he has to be ready to be corrected. That is the word I can use.
You saw the resolutions of the summit the other day.
And also, I don't need to go to State House to beg for a project.
Actually, that was my last question. If you're called to the State House,
I will go. President is the head of state.
But the Azimio rallies, you're not going to go.
It's my choice to attend any kind of meeting I want. So if I feel there is necessity to attend, I will attend. If I feel there is need to go to State House, I will go without consultation.
All right, thank you. Charles Nguna, the MP from Wingi West there, talking about the Azimio rallies. He says he's got to State House. He's definitely going to go. We also had Honorable Peris Tobiko, who is a UDA nominated senator, and Nahashon Moitalel, who is a governance and leadership expert. Thank you, Doctor. Apologies for that. Dr. Nahashon Moitalel, who is a governance and leadership expert. Thank you so much for joining us on this first hour. On the next hour, we will be seeing what the young men and young women are doing in terms of innovation, and also what more the government is doing in that. Yes, indeed, it is doing enough. We had a lot of symposium at the end of last year just to showcase on how the digital space is going on. And remember, the government said that all government, over 5,000 services are all going digital, and is quite fast on that. Where are we? We'll be looking at that when we come back.